I have to tell you, journeying through these candies and the ads, it's, you know how chicken pox is a virus that recurs sometimes in adulthood as shingles? I've been remembering things like the jingle for Brill Cream But we're going to be looking today at Twix. We're in the middle of this series called The Sweet Life, where each Sunday we allow the slogans or jingles or ads from a particular candy to invite us into our examination of things in Scripture that make for a sweet life lived together as God's children. So today we're going to look at what truths some Twix ads can offer about how to live this sweet life. So let's start with a little history on the candy. You know me. It was created in the UK in 1967. And it's actually a portmanteau, or a mashup, as we call it today, a mashup of the words twin sticks. So twin sticks make Twix. Who knew? And the ad campaign that connects our sermon title, Making the Right Choice, with Twix candy bars is called Left Twix or Right Twix. So it's sort of a forced choice there. And it lasted an amazingly long time, from 2012 to 2023. I didn't realize it was that long. The premise is that two twin brothers who invent the candy or have a falling out and the bar between them breaks. And, well, let's see that ad that shows us the story.
When the inventors of Twix unveiled their bar, the tension between them reached a breaking point. Literally. So they divided the production between two separate factories. Each factory took a vastly different approach. Left Twix flowed caramel on cookie, while Right Twix cascaded caramel on cookie. Left Twix bathed in chocolate, while Right Twix cloaked in chocolate. Both bars as different as the vastly distinct men who invented them. To this day, sharing nothing but a wrapper and an ill-designed driveway. Try both and pick a side.
So there's the choice they present. You know, even as we're amused at this premise, we can see that the cookies are identical, even if we call them by different names. Not only that, Left Twix and Right Twix is relative to the cookie's position. So it's doubly bogus. No matter how the wrapper is labeled, one's going to be on the left if you have two cookies, and one's going to be on the right. And so there will always be a Left Twix and a Right Twix, and you can switch it by flipping the bar over. So it really is the wrong question. We heard this same phenomenon in the passage that Megan read us today. Thank you for that. The people get scared when the spies come back, and they complain and they challenge the leadership of Moses and Aaron, as they do each time things get kind of hard. And they ask, are we going to follow Moses and Aaron into Canaan and probably die, or are we going to elect new leaders to lead us back to Egypt? That's the wrong question, too. Can you imagine the Egyptians as the cloud of dust shows the Israelites coming back to Egypt and back to slavery? It is not a good option. They also, in this question, confuse Moses and Aaron with God, who is actually calling the shots, as will become clear shortly when Moses and Aaron's successors are named. And God, of course, carries on with the Israelites. So these wrong questions are leading to wrong choices. We'll come back to the Israelite situation in just a little bit. So this Left Twix, Right Twix campaign was successful for 11 years. And then suddenly it became apparent that the candy was losing elements of society who were exhausted by constant polarization, even in jest. They weren't finding it funny anymore. And so then with a culture that was looking for unity and togetherness, Twix came out with an ad that called out the falsehood of the question. This might be one of my favorites. Let's see this one.
You know, it doesn't matter if you choose left or right because they're both chewy, crunchy, and delicious.
You know, it doesn't matter if you choose left or right because they're both chewy, crunchy, and delicious. You know what else I like?
No, what?
The sound of the snap.
When you bite into it.
So I don't know if you can see the words at the end. It's like, it doesn't matter, it's all a good choice because they're all chewy, crunchy, and delicious. Or as Maya Angelou says, we are more alike, my friends, than we are unalike. So back to the Israelites in the desert. They're asking which humans they should follow, Moses or Aaron, or new captains to take them back to slavery in Egypt. It is the wrong question, and it makes God furious. First, God tells Moses in the tent of meeting how mad he is about his desire to disinherit all the Israelites and just start over again with Moses' descendants. And he wants to send pestilence and plague over everybody all over again. Oh, except for Caleb and Joshua. Caleb and Joshua, when the spies come back, campaigned for God. They said, "The land that we went through is exceedingly good land, and God is with us. Do not fear the people. God will bring us into the land." And the people then threatened to stone Caleb and Joshua. So God is understandably very mad and rages about their disbelief and their short memories, how they can't remember the miracles that got them out of Egypt or the ways they were provided for in the desert. God is mad. So I'm really glad that God had Moses to process God's feelings with before making a decision about next steps. Because when God told this to Moses, Moses prevailed upon God to be merciful, to remember that it's better to be slow to anger and abounding in steadfast love. Moses even reminded God that it's a much better message to send all the surrounding nations to show an ability to provide for your people, even in the face of their fear and foolishness, in the face of their own blindness and lack of belief. So after this discussion with Moses, they call Aaron in, and the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, I added that part. "How long will the Israelites complain against me? I've heard all the things they're saying, the complaints they make. You tell them, as I live, says the Lord, I will do to you the very things I heard you say to each other. Your dead bodies shall fall in this very wilderness, and not one of you 20 years or older who have complained against me shall come into the land that I swore to settle you, except Caleb, son of Jephunneh, and Joshua, son of Nun. But your little ones I will bring in, and they shall know the land that you have despised." And so we see by this story that in God's cause and effect universe, there is a consequence for making wrong choices, for choosing to turn away from God, for wanting to choose a human leader who is not following God's will and timing for the nation. God had Moses and Aaron lead all those who were adults at the time, wandering through the desert for 40 more years, until that generation, none of them remained. Then and only then, Caleb and Joshua led the children of those Israelites into the promised land. He led them in to claim the inheritance God had promised to Israel. In order to do that, they had to face so many trials together as a union of tribes in order to prevail. Unity was an idea whose time had come. This was a generation that never raised families in the land of Egypt. They had never experienced slavery. They weren't there where there was plenty of meat in the pot when Pharaoh was pleased with everybody, and often not even straw for bricks when he wasn't. This was not part of their experience. This was a generation of parents and their children who came to age under God's guidance, learning the ways and secrets of living in the desert, surviving in the desert with God's provision. So after basically 40 years of survival training, they had formed a unity as a people, a nation of Israel united under the guidance of God. And so you might wonder, was there ever glimpses of a unity in the Twix ads? There were. Occasionally there are one bite or one bar varieties. Here's an ad from the 1990s about Twix Bites.
Introducing Twix Bites, cookie, chocolate, and caramel in a bite size. It's such a great idea, you're probably wondering, why didn't we think of these years ago?
So, what are you getting all done up for? I got a big meeting. I'm going to pitch my idea for bite-sized Twix.
Oh, that's a good idea.
I know. I really feel like this could be my big change.
Your favorite bars, bite-sized. Introducing Twix Bites.
So the way the narrator of the commercial even wonders why nobody ever thought of an undivided treat, it really illustrates how much harder it is to embrace unity than to think of division. And although Twix Bites do remain as Twix Minis today, individually wrapped, thank you, COVID, Twix is still primarily a two-candy bar. But as the Mama Bear said, Twix is a good choice either way because it's chewy, crunchy, and delicious. And actually, for some of us, Twix might not be the best choice anyway. It's very glutenful, if you were wondering. That little cookie, the wonderful shortbread cookie that it's built on, has some gluten. But let's assume, for the moment, that Twix symbolizes something about life that is good and pleasing and desirable and healthy for everyone. An awesome treat that contains two practically identical cookies. A better question to ask then might be, if I have this awesome two-part treat, what would be the best thing I could do with it? Twix ads over the years have offered two options. Let's look at one of them.
Twice the goodness, twice the taste, twice the smile upon your face. Chocolate caramel cookies times two, it's two for me and none for you. Twix!
So that's one choice. The other choice, of course, is what John the Baptist recommends in Luke 3 when he says, whoever has two coats, share with anyone who has none, and whoever has food should do likewise. So the other option is, of course, to share the other cookie. I was telling this to a friend, though, and he said, a true saint would give them both away. So there are three options. But two of them are more recommended than maybe the one we just saw. At any rate, asking whether to grasp or share a Twix is the Twix version of the right question that Joshua finally asks the children of Israel 2 whole books of the Bible later. By this time, Joshua and Caleb are 40 years older. Caleb is at least my age, just for perspective. And they've led this whole new generation of Israelites into the Promised Land, fighting lots of people, making room in that region for the tribes of Israel's descendants, the people of Israel. Joshua has divvied up the land to the different clans, and he's even given them time to go to that land and to settle into their new homes. Then Joshua calls them all to come back together for a huge meeting of the congregation as a nation of united tribes, and he presents them with a choice. He says to the Israelites, I gave you a land on which you had not labored, and towns that you had not built, and you live in them. And you eat the fruit of the vineyards and olive yards that you did not plant. Now, therefore, revere the Lord and serve him in sincerity and in faithfulness. Put away the gods that your ancestors served beyond the river and in Egypt, and serve the Lord. Now, if you're unwilling to serve the Lord, choose this day whom you will serve, whether the gods your ancestors served in the region beyond the river, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you are living. But as for me and my household, we will serve the Lord. Here at last is the question the last generation should have considered originally. Will we follow God together, or each go our own way following other gods? Will we follow God or put something else at the center of our lives? The theologian Reinhold Niebuhr, who's best known for his Serenity Prayer, also said this: there are no atheists. Whatever you put at the center of your life is your God. We miss the life God intends for us when we put something besides God at the center of our lives, because our lives are guided by what we value, what we center our lives on, what we make our decisions around. We can be pulled off center by conventions of society, by centering what others will think about us. We can be knocked off by fear. We can be pulled off center by the cultural undertow to make money, have power or influence, wear and acquire beautiful new things, to look a certain way, what culture considers attractive. We can be lured off center by a misplaced sense of security based on our own accomplishments and forgot that God has been with us along the way. And sometimes we center those other things at the expense of others, Sometimes we center them at not being true to our own deepest values. Sometimes we center these other things at the expense of not being true to Christ's mandate to love each other and God with all our hearts, minds, and souls, as well as ourselves. To the extent that we betray others, God, our highest selves, in pursuit of the trappings of culture, we've missed the invitation of our one wild and precious life, as Mary Oliver says, to use our time growing closer to God and to each other in community. And our spirits, bound by these cultural ties, are not free. At that point, we are not living in the promised land with God, who makes us and loves us and wishes the best for us all. When, on the other hand, we choose God in the ways of God, especially as shown to us in the life and teachings of Jesus, when we center the way God has taught us to live peaceably together, we make a threefold promise at two levels. We agree to center God, self, and neighbor. That's the threefold part. In the long run in our lives and also in the short run. We use this as a compass for the turns we make, minute by minute, day by day, until we build our life upon these things. Each of us is invited to stand up, speak out, be counted among God's children, to enter into the work God unfolds to us in the gift of our lives as it becomes clear, as things are revealed to us. In my experience, usually step by step, although I'd love a blueprint. Each of us is invited to make a commitment to do our best, heart, mind, and soul, to do the next right thing for the short run and the long haul with God's help. Now, what is true and clear and unavoidable is that we will fall. With our neighbor's hands through the Holy Spirit, God will pick us back up. Over time, we will learn grace because we will need it to forgive ourselves for each time we haven't lived up to our own expectations. We will need grace to keep ourselves going, to keep hope in the face of difficulty. We will need God's grace to work with others who inhabit the world in ways that are vastly different than the way we inhabit the world. And we will learn that God is with us for the learning, for the company, for the journey, for the big adventure. Also, over time, as we practice doing this, we will learn to ask better questions so that we get to spend less time in the desert or the eddies of life. We will see that right or left, we're all cookies in the same wrapper. Maybe when we have something to eat and something to share, we will learn to take care of each other with what we have, with open hands and with thankful hearts, and trust in God's providence and presence in the sweet life that God intends for all of us. Sounds simple, right? Well, the right choice is often both simple and extremely difficult. But we can do it because God is with us, and God is waiting for the day when our primary identity is as one of God's children. If we can muster the courage, hour by hour and year by year, to choose God's adventure, God will bring us over together into the promised land we help build with God. Thanks be to God for such mercy and grace.